don't over-edit in our earlier video editing career where we over-edit for the sake of over-editing.
Yeah.
I'm going to make
Prove
this
yourself in a way.
sweet video and just put multiple effects, transitions.
Filmed an event well, you don't need to do cool transitions and stuff.
There's nothing wrong with throwing a raw clip out there because, like,
I'm gonna wait for the perfect time to start my journey on something.
just start. If you're asking yourself that question, it's probably already too late. Boom. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of TTC TV. This is a YouTube show by 2Times Creative. That is us. It is a show designed to help you dominate content creation while we do so. Also, Darren, episode 6 already. How are you feeling?
We are flying through. I'm feeling good. It's been a big week.
It's a big week for you,
myself.
actually. It's a good starting point. So Darren's getting married this week, but viewers, he's still making time for myself and you.
Priorities. No, it's always good to fit in episodes regardless of if my wedding is in 3 days from now. No, but
I think you're pretty certain what it is.
No,
Well, you'd hope so.
All of these days kind of blur, but no, it's a big week. Not a big content week. It was a big content week before, but I'm on 2 weeks leave right now.
That's good. It's a smart plan, but it is sort of content because you've got a videographer and photographer there, so it relates somehow.
You know the amount of people that when I talk about my wedding, they're like, "Is your brother doing the videography or photography?" I'm like, "Could you imagine if I like had a proper discussion with
It'd
you
be a
and was
bit
just
distant-
like, yeah, would
bit
you?"
distant of me.
I was gonna say if we weren't close, I might be like, "Hey, I want to come to my wedding and shoot." But could you imagine being at your brother's
Yeah.
wedding and you're on duty and you're doing content and working? Anyway,
It'd feel a bit odd. I am the best man, so I'm not sure you can cross over as the videographer
save
and
lots of
best
money.
man.
The wedding prices are stupid on content and videographers, but I'm not gonna.
What
make
do you
do
pay?
that.
No, I'm
No,
kidding.
not
Any
a lot.
shout outs to the people you're using? I don't know, or you don't know if they're good yet.
Well, I do know the photographer. He did Jess's, my fiance. Well, it's only a
Nailed
limited amount of days I can call it that left.
True.
He did my fiance's friend's wedding, and he was great. That's
Great,
why we
cool.
got him. So Alex Chung Photography on
Nice.
Instagram, I think it's called.
follow
but
that. Follow Alex.
He's elite, and I hope he lives up to his expectations. But that's enough about the wedding.
What are we talking about this week? Quick teaser. What are you talking about?
I want to talk about some audiences, like who just know who you're targeting with content. Like you have to know, otherwise
Very
it's easy
important.
to just compare and be like, "Hey, I want to be like them," but then you're not like them.
They're not your audience. Yeah.
Another
That's
one. Expect to be shit mindset.
Oh, love it.
That's what I'm calling it.
Yep. No, that's always a great discussion when
It's
it
like a
comes to
headline.
podcasts. It's particularly like quick teaser of a saying I always like that. Like if you're proud of your first couple of episodes, whether it's a podcast, a show, then you've started too late. Like if you're not
yeah, true.
if
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
embarrassed by your first couple of episodes, you've started too late.
So it's like whenever you start a journey on any type of content or project, like, yes, it doesn't mean you don't strive for greatness and you don't want the first episodes, but
You just
anyway,
gotta
we'll
start,
We'll
is
dive
the-
into it later. But you had a week with the great man Eddie Betts.
Yes, big week, 5-day shoot. I think it's my first ever 5-day shoot because it was across
did-
5 days.
He did come home in between those.
Yes, I wasn't
days.
gone, but we'll touch on that. And I guess out of that, I wanted to talk about editing, more specifically, how you turn around content of an event or sporting game. I think it's changed a little, so we'll dive into that.
I liked his mindset on this, so we'll get stuck into that one. But a few quick questions as we always do to kickstart this thing off. First one from Caitlin. There's some good ones in here. I like reading what people send through, and straight away your mind goes to what you might talk about. But
Particularly because we don't rehearse, like we just put them at the start of this show for Q&A and we answer it. So you're getting our live reactions, organic reactions.
Obviously, you still read it, but yes, you do. First one from Caitlin. What do you do when you have creative block? And I think this is a great question because regardless of what creative industry or content you're into, you're always going to have moments where you're just like, I'm not motivated, I can't do anything. And that a lot of it comes from comparison. But what do you do? What's your number one?
Well, we did talk about this episode 2 or something. I think I touched on it, but whatever I can to get away from work is my answer. So if I notice I'm struggling with creative block, nothing's happening in terms of my energy or creativity, go for a walk, get away from the screen, turn my mind off work mode. Even if you are busy, it's very hard to do. But if what you need to do in that moment is to create an idea or get those juices flowing, you need to get out of the house. I always joked
Get
about
away from it.
get away from it. I always joked about having a shower that helps you clear, like,
Oh, true.
because that's the same thing, right? Like
I'm
your
up to my-
thought, back
I'm
to
up
the
my
shower.
5th shower because I just can't think of ideas.
No, but seriously, it comes when you're least expecting it. So that's what I do. What do you do?
No, I think that's got to be number one, and I think it's really funny. I like still to this day I find it really funny when you're like, if you're stuck in that mode of like, I used to relate it back to when I did a fair few designs, like graphic design. Like if you just can't, whatever you put on that paper, on that Photoshop file, if you just can't get anything you like, you just get so frustrated and you're like, I've wasted so much time here, and then you're in your head. But the amazing art of just waiting a day, like the next morning you come to that page and you look at it, you're like, oh, either it's pretty good where you're at, or you just straight away think of something that's better.
Yeah.
So the art of just leaving
It's
it,
annoying,
even if it's
isn't
hard
it?
with it is hard with deadlines. Like it is hard, but wait a day, get away from the screen. I think that's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's sort of funny and annoying because you're right. Like you'll switch off, you haven't got it done, and then at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, you'll be like, bang.
Yeah, you
Because
literally
you can't flick on the creative idea. You'll just be like having dinner or whatever. You're like, I've got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to
Well,
work.
You just get so stuck in that spiral
Yeah.
of thinking about it. But it's a good question because I'm sure everyone actually if you have a good method as well of
Yeah,
what
let
you
us
guys
know.
do, because I'm always curious. People might be the opposite. They're like, no, I
Keep working.
focus more.
Scroll Instagram.
Yeah, I literally
For us, though,
I
it's
don't
stop working.
Literally.
It's get away from what you're doing and find a way to clear your head.
Next one. Quinny boy.
Queen hit us with a fair few, so let's rattle them off almost rapid fire. But how do I get into sports photography?
It's broad.
Take photos. No, I think you've probably gotten this question a bit because you work at the NBL. It's a sexy job, right? Like people,
Yeah.
people
Hell yeah, it's sexy, yeah.
It is though. Like you work in.
You're
park-
sexy, yeah, so. No, it's,
Well,
people do put you on a like. They're like, oh, that's a
pedestal,
established
yeah.
league in a way. But
So
yeah,
I think you would have gotten the question, how do I make this my job? I've been asked a few times. There is no magic answer when it comes to getting into particularly something like sport. People often, and I like this advice, like find a local club, start building your portfolio that way, because the moment you have the conversation with the right person to get that job in a sporting club, they're going to want to see examples. So go do some stuff for free. Unfortunately and fortunately, sport, it pays to do things for free to build your portfolio. So I would recommend doing that at the start, build a bit of a portfolio. And when you do have that conversation with X person from the Carlton Football Club, like my sort of journey, you've got examples.
I think that's the number one showcase. Just showcase your work.
Yeah.
Be your biggest cheerleader. That's all you can do. Like otherwise, like knock down doors. That's all you can do.
Knock on doors and be a normal, kind person, because that goes a long way.
It actually does. And all
With
as
everything, not just sports photography. But
No, true. All it takes is the right person to notice.
Yep. Good point.
Well, you said it first. I'm just going off the back of
Good
it.
point, Michael. DaVinci or this? So DaVinci or Premiere? I have a Mac, but I don't want
DaVinci
Final
Resolve,
Cut. DaVinci
Adobe
Resolve.
Premiere for full name basis.
I can't help, or both of us can't help a lot with this because we're Premiere through and through.
You know, I had a stage of learning DaVinci.
I'd never know that. Wow. I mean, you learn something
Zoom
about
up on that
your best
shocked
man,
face.
man, brother.
You want to be my videographer? For
Yeah,
my,
maybe
using
I'm,
DaVinci?
maybe I'm not
No,
that close to you. Really? When?
It was just like, you know, when you
Like a week ago or something?
No, you just scroll on my wedding week. Been busy. No, there was a time.
Darren, you're gonna help?
There's a time that on YouTube it was very big. Like, you know those titles that are like clickbaity almost. It was like, I'm moving away from Premiere. I'm doing it. DaVinci Resolve, and
It's
I was like,
probably,
why are people going to DaVinci? But I only wanted to try it because I heard the color grading was super like good. But I did it for like a week, as in I was just trying to learn it. But the daunting nature of jumping into a program where you just don't know what's going on eventually just put me back to Premiere, because at that stage I didn't color grade that much as well, so I didn't want to learn another program to edit when Premiere is just so.
I think you're so comfortable in it too. Like it is daunting to say I'm going to change my whole. You're so used to you open Premiere and you're just in your natural flow because you know where everything is. To learn a whole new program, I'm sure it's worth it, but unless you really want to, I guess, level up your color grading.
Yeah, color grading. Ask yourself why as well. Like, you're just doing it because it's the fad.
Is that, I like it. Is that the saying? But it sounds right.
I think so.
Yeah, but it's such a good point. Like, are you doing it because you want to do it, or are you just doing it because it's better and everyone else is doing it?
You saw someone else cool doing it. But moving on to the next one, I don't know. I think just try both. If you're literally starting from scratch, just try both. Look at reviews. That's the time you can look at
I
reviews.
disagree. Try Premiere. I think DaVinci would be harder to learn from scratch from what I've seen. What I've heard.
Maybe. Yeah, no, true. Premiere is great.
Don't listen to Darren.
Do I really need to pay for Lightroom? I would say,
Yes.
are you a photographer? Yes. Pay for the whole damn Adobe Suite, because that makes your life very easy. I don't know what free. Do you remember the program GIMP?
Yeah, I think
It's
I
like
do
a free Photoshop.
I
Anyway,
think
just pay. It's a lot, but
paying for something is actually like a secret. It's almost like a secret to putting validation to yourself. Does that make sense? Like, paying for a program is committing to
I don't
yourself
think it
that
does.
you are going to do something properly.
That,
So-
yeah.
so
Sorry,
if-
you go.
So if you are if you're hesitant about paying for a subscription, for example, or use this for example, you're a photographer, you take photos, but you don't really know editing. You're trying to find a cheap version of Lightroom that's free, or a free version of Lightroom. By paying for it, you're committing to yourself that you're taking it seriously, and you're already sort of mentally telling yourself, "Well, I'm going to be a photographer who makes my edits far better than I would on a free program."
I've thought about this mindset a bit. Like, relate it back to the gym. If you buy a gym membership, then you're making yourself be like,
True.
well, I'm wasting money if I don't go, so I'm going to go. Like,
Yeah.
it's a kind of way of the same with content. If you buy the Adobe Suite, you're bound to use it more because you're gonna
Yeah.
in my mind, you are.
Well, let's use our amount of cash. So we've outsourced video editing for this show that you're watching right now, and not only are we loving it, but it motivates us to do it each week or fortnight
Motivation and enjoyment,
because you're paying for it.
literally.
It makes sense. Next one, Canon or Sony?
Just go Sony. None of us have ever used Canons before.
Good, quick fire. It's true. We've never used it. Go Sony.
That's all I got. What's the best time to start right now? When's the best time to
When's
start?
the best
I should
time to
say?
start?
That's what Michael said before. If you're starting and you're already really good, that you probably waited a bit long, right? Maybe
Yeah,
not.
well-
Maybe not in all cases, but in saying that, I think too often people are like, "Hey, I'm gonna wait for the perfect time to start my journey
Yeah.
on something." But just
How about this? Sorry, finish that point.
no, just start.
Just start. If you're asking yourself that question, it's probably already too late. Boom.
Okay.
But
No, no, that probably felt a lot cooler in your head than it was.
I reckon that's gonna come out a treat.
No, true. It might put some sound on it, put effects or something. Do you want to jump into weeks? Because last time I was privileged to go first, but we're back onto regular programming.
Well, we can chop and change, but yeah. So I alluded to it earlier, but I had 5 days straight shooting.
What's Eddie? But you've met because you obviously had the Carlton career.
Concrete, yeah. So
How far was Eddie Betts there from?
yeah,
a
he
lot
was
of
there
it?
for 2 years. So his last 2 years, because he came back from Carlton. So if you don't follow footy, Eddie Betts is a beloved AFL and one of the best ever forwards, I would say.
Goal I was going to say goal snake.
But we overlapped at my time at Carlton probably the last 2 years of his career.
Did he know? Like, did he recognise you?
Well, when this started to when I first had the chat to work with his foundation, the Eddie Betts Foundation, yes, he remembered
Good.
me. It's like,
Okay.
Mike, I've met you before.
And
So it's good.
So you worked 5 days with him.
Yeah, so Eddie Betts Foundation, they do amazing stuff. So they help Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids from all over Australia provide a pathway to get them in the AFL, essentially, because there's a decrease in Indigenous players in the AFL.
I heard them saying that on unless it was you telling me, but I'm pretty sure
Might
in the
have been
grand
me.
final there was something they wouldn't talk
Oh, that's
about.
good.
This.
Well, I think Eddie
Maybe.
I saw an interview. But anyway, so they help Indigenous boys and girls. This one was just the Boys Academy get into
The
the
league, yeah.
But it's
League
also a
Z.
pathway for not just footy, it's for life, so for giving them routine, healthy habits, diet. So it's really good. So I spent the week with them, videography, teamed up with Paddy, whose names we probably mentioned on this show before, but he took over their socials and photography. And together, I would say we provided literally like an AFL coverage of the entire week in terms of the amount of content we got out and the coverage of the kids.
Love that. No,
Yeah.
the stuff you guys are putting out are very good. The 5 a.m. club, you and Paddy. Did you get up at 5 a.m. with him?
No, that's
Same.
a reference to Paddy's 5 a.m. challenge. But
Gotta be known for something.
got to be known for something. But no, what I took out of the week is so each day I was turning around a same day reel, so same day video content. But
That's good of you.
yeah, it was part of the agreement.
Good of you to honour it.
Yeah, thank
Very-
you. Well, I actually overdid it. So what is it? Promise and over deliver, like over deliver.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but my point to daily videos is I think it's sort of changed in my mind what works best for video content. What I mean by that is I think, throw it back a few years, even more recent, that if you were covering an event or a sport, I think a lot of us would just do a recap of the day.
Yep.
A recap of the event, whatever. It was recap essential. It's like, what should we do from this day? Let's just recap it. But from what, and I already sort of knew this, but this was a really good example with the Eddie Betts Foundation, that now it's all about moments. It's all about finding those pieces that have one theme to really draw the viewer's attention to the story or point you're trying to prove. Because I think doing a recap isn't going to interest the general public as much as those moments. Does that
right.
make sense?
No, I think you're right, because especially, we've done, like you said, we've done plenty of it where it is just your turnaround is a recap video. But if you have certain moments like that interview with the fireworks with Eddie in the background, like if you have that standalone, that to me that's much more impactful than. Otherwise, that stuff would get lost in the recap.
Yeah, it's hidden at the end.
It's actually pretty obvious when you think about it. If you have the, like, not obvious, but like if you have a really cool moment, you either post that by itself or you post that as the third select in a video.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to be more impactful? I know you can open up the video with that, but in all cases you won't, because maybe there's two bits of
It won't be as
content.
attention grabbing because it's someone just talking.
Yeah, and it's just, recaps are good. It just depends what you want.
I think, yeah, it's hard, and maybe it relies on the platform, because a recap might be better suited now just to put on YouTube. But I think sometimes we think, oh, we got to tell the story, so it's got to be a full 1 minute, 2 minute recap of the entire day. We'll get multiple bites of the cherry and gets 4 or 5 videos from the day.
Well, as what you were saying before, do it with a purpose. Like if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation on what the Eddie Betts Foundation is, recap's great.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for social media clips, recap maybe gone are the days.
Mate, I think so. I think
like
they
that.
are. And maybe they'll come back. Everything comes back. But the second point to this, don't over edit if, again, purpose. I've seen videos that, nothing to do with my week last week, but it sort of reminded me that I feel like me and you have caught in this trap probably a little bit in our earlier video editing career, where we over edit for the sake of over editing.
Yeah.
I'm going to make
Improve
this
yourself in a way.
sweet video and just put multiple effects, transitions, make it a bit more fancy. But when you ask yourself why, it's like, oh, better video. But is it? Like, because I've started watching videos now where it is over edited, and it has the opposite effect to me.
Oh yeah, I think that's always been.
Because you're just like, oh, what's happening? Like, I can't actually see the vision.
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to hide bad vision? Like,
well, we've had this conversation a bit. Like, yeah, otherwise, like, let the vision do the speaking. If you filmed an event well, you don't need to do cool transitions and stuff. And if you are very good at that and it adds a purpose, sure. But you don't need to, just because you might edit it. You might edit something quickly. Like, oh, that was too quick. I might chuck some flashes on top. You don't need to. Like,
it's strange though, because like, there's nothing wrong with throwing a raw clip out there, because like we saw it with the Eddie Betts Foundation. One of Paddy's reels literally is up to nearly 900k views, and it's just a raw phone video. But the point is that there's nothing wrong with trying to hide good video footage if there's nothing to hide.
exactly. No, I get you. I'm with you. Don't overdo it unless you
Don't overdo it. Don't over edit.
In saying that, as we say this every single time, you can if you want. If that's your jam and you're good at it and you want to
It's a great
experiment, you
point.
still can.
Yeah, if you want to level up your editing, or you just like enjoy it, still do it. But it
For the sake of it, no.
don't do it for the sake of doing it.
Oh,
I think that
yeah,
makes
just
sense. I
said
think
that.
it's a good point.
Yeah, but yeah, perfect. But well said.
Thank you. Sort of. We got there in the end.
got the
Before we get
gist.
to your week,
One more from you, or you?
just a bit of appreciation. So
Oh, here we go.
no, I'll put up another LinkedIn post. Follow my LinkedIn. I'm actually trying a post every day just to see how it goes. Bit of
Blimey.
insight. Blowing up. We are we're taking off. But anyway, my point to this
You've
is
got a lot of time on your hands.
it's just a bit of, you can make time for anything, Darren. Time's just a barrier and an excuse. But my point to this is, one of my posts was talking about, I was just sitting there, I think it was Saturday morning on a weekend. So you sort of think, oh, why am I working like on a weekend? But then I was just editing a hype video for the Tasmania Jack Jumpers' first home game of NBL 25. And you just sort of like, you get a bit complacent with these things. You would heaps because that's your full-time job. But it's so cool when you think about it. Like, I filmed, and not only am I editing, it's from my vision of the media day that we touched on. And it's going to be played on the big screen in the reigning champions of NBL, the biggest basketball league in Australia. We just
it's so true.
you got to remind yourself of these things, because you just get complacent of like, yeah,
I think
got to work on a Saturday morning.
Exactly, and it's the same with anything you're kind of proud of. But you do it long enough, you just kind of go through the motions a bit in your mind. But then I think it's important to have. I always relate that back to me telling my dad what I do for.
Yeah, he's a good
like
dad.
what I'm doing for trips or something. If I'm going traveling, or I spoke to this player today, he's just like, "Geez, mate, that's cool. Like, that is so cool." And you can hear it in his voice how cool it is. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, it is pretty special. So it's always good to have those family and friends that keep you grounded, because
Perspective.
otherwise you just do it every day. Well, most days, and then you're just like, okay, this is my job now. But just take a step back and be like, oh, this is
Yeah.
actually still cool.
I actually think about your role as a perfect example of that. Like if you were to define the perfect role for you, basketball, sport content, like all the players, they know you. Like yes, the week to week can be tough or whatever sometimes, like any job. But
Well, that's why whenever someone asks what I think of my job, I always hesitate to say this is basically a dream job, but it is.
yeah, I mean dreams change. So it might not be one day, but it's
Yeah,
You got to remind yourself that right now it is, and that's really cool.
It's a great point. Great point.
Your week, Darren. I want to hear about. Well, you teased these 2 points beautifully, I might add. So hit us.
Well, I actually took a different approach in the run sheet. I bolded a headline and then a bit of a background underneath.
Great work.
So
Darren.
no,
that's fantastic.
two in amongst my wedding, 2 themes popped up. It was actually mainly last week because I'm not gonna lie, this
What's
week
with the double-handed?
the double-handed.
Carry on.
Firm. So no, I don't know. You've thrown me off track, but 2 headlines on it, 2 themes I wanted to touch on. First being just understand your audience when you're posting content.
What brought this on?
Well, it's just so at the NBL we're always revolutionizing the game, and no, we're always thinking of different ideas. This was like the last week. We're always thinking of new ideas and like new content, new podcasts, new shows.
They actually do push the boundaries.
Yeah, I said revolutionary in like a sarcastic tone, but I actually think we do.
You do. Yeah.
So we're always thinking of different ideas, but a lot of that is like, hey, how many basketball shows can you do? How many podcasts can you do? But they're all going to have different markets, and we made a super coach show last season, so that's the fantasy basketball. So if you're thinking about the audience for that, and this is what made me think about it, the audience for that is like the real nuffies of the league, like the people that want to know every single details, the stats, the analytics of it all. I just think the overlying message is more if you're looking at a product and being like, hey, why isn't it like that one I love or whatever? My underlying message is just like know your content, know who it's for,
Know your
and know what you're. The second part of that is know what you're trying to do in terms of. So, for example, the Supercoach one, nuffies. Yep. We're trying to probably entertain and inform about all things Supercoach.
But people like that would probably like, it almost reflects your content, in my opinion, because you wouldn't need to go to like a real fancy, your approach to content wouldn't need to be overproduced. They just want to see some like numbers that stick out.
Literally. Yeah, and the editing of that one is funny enough, super basic.
Yeah.
Because people just want to hear what they're going to say. You throw some stats up there.
It's a really good point, how you actually produce content based on who on earth your audience is.
Because otherwise you fall down that trap of just like you compare it to like this, I don't know, this fancy as production that's like geared
3
towards
cameras.
geared towards a completely different audience. Then you look at yours, you're like, oh, mine's not really up to that scratch. It's like, but what are you trying to achieve versus that? So I just think, number one, understand who your audience is and then what you're trying to do for them.
Yeah. No,
I think it's literally write it down.
I love that. I think it's a very good point.
Thank you.
That you've made.
I
think it's easy to forget as well. Because sometimes our first thought being content creators and what we do, it might be straight away how it's going to look and what it's going to look like in terms of a stylistic view, but strip it back first and just be like, well, who on earth, we've talked about it, who on earth is your audience, Travis?
Yeah. What is Travis?
Identify. Yeah. It helps.
It actually helps, but I thought that was a good point. Next one, I alluded to it at the start, but the expect it to be shit mindset, which
talk us through
it sounds funny, but, and again, this is always when I'm big on, and you're the same, you kind of think of new ideas and new projects. You're like, hey, I want to do that. But when you do that, just expect it to be bad. And I know that sounds funny, but if you started singing tomorrow, are you going to be good or bad? Like, maybe you're naturally talented, but I bet you're going to be pretty bad.
It's a good example.
But if you want to be good, it's a process. So enjoy the process and expect yourself to be average or bad.
Enjoy being shit.
Yeah, literally enjoy the process of being shit, because it alludes back to what you said before. If you're waiting for the perfect opportunity to start something, just do it.
Yeah.
Just get better at it. So I think it's a funny mindset, but it's one that's helped me.
I think it would help everyone, because you're right. It doesn't matter what you're talking about here. It applies to literally everything.
Yeah, you have to get better, and it's this show. I can guarantee you, in 10 episodes, we're gonna look back on episode 1 and be like, not great.
Which to your point is a good thing. It's not meant to be any other way.
And you're not meant to star at something. People always talk about I always go back to the Amazon example. Apparently, they were a company for like a year, like 9 years or something before they did anything.
Research. Good research, Darren.
Might not be 9. It could be like 12. It could be 5.
Well,
but something like that. Like, companies are around for a lot longer before they're big time.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. It's everything. It actually applies heavily to what we're doing here, because I often have to remind myself, like, I want to do this. why are we not there yet? But you've bloody been in business. 2 times creators been in business for 8 to 9 months.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like even funny things like holding the microphone too high. We've literally had conversations.
Episode 1, if you notice, I was like,
the conversation. I think Michael's just like more like this, and it's not a big thing at all.
Yeah, because I've never done it before.
People would not know, but from our mind, because you're so
Oh, maybe they did.
No, you're so conscious of what we look like or what you're doing. It doesn't matter. Like
to be honest as well, to be honest as well, that's the enjoyable part.
yeah.
Because like if there was no opportunity for growth or development, and you absolutely nailed it, and everyone's complimenting you straight away. Where's the like half the drive to keep doing it? It's like,
Motivation.
you're bloody amazing at this, and you should never do anything else. Like, thanks, that was my first time ever.
Exactly. Enjoy the process from shit to good. But last one, this wasn't originally on the run sheet, but we were talking about it off air.
Yeah,
I'm calling it
non-recording, behind the scenes.
non-recording hours. But we're doing this cool thing at NBL before I took a hike on it on the leave. On my wedding
Well,
leave.
as you should. It's your wedding week.
Yeah, true. We're doing this thing called Nextars Content Creators. So Nextars, bit of background really quickly.
Yep.
Nextars is the young, up-and-coming American, European, Australians now, talent in the NBL.
Yep. And every
That-
team has 2 next stars or 1.
They have, I think we're getting to the point you can have an Aussie one and a...
So it's like a
international
development pathway for a sporting league.
Yeah, and the whole idea is for them to come here, you can play 1 or 2 years at the NBL, and then you get to the NBA. You get to your dream. That's the whole goal in a nutshell.
Yep.
But basically, it's become bigger and bigger and bigger ever since we've done it like 3,
Yep.
4, 5 years ago, whatever it was. But now we want to really ramp up the content because I think that, one, it helps us, but it also, to me, would really appeal to especially American kids that come over here and European kids that content is obviously a big part of everything now.
Yeah.
So we're getting specific content creators to literally go to a game and shoot photo and video of Nextars only. That's
really
the number
cool.
1 focus.
I actually sort of curious to dive further into that because you're and talk us through this because the first thing you sort of did was to make separate social accounts for them, right?
Yes.
So what went into that? Was it so that maybe you talk about like the Americans, for example, maybe they just followed the Nextars Instagram page. They don't need to follow the league, and it's actually again, go back to your point about your audience. It's actually a way to get a new audience and bigger audience. Is that?
I reckon that first point was 100%. Like, you just have to be realistic with it. Like, you get, like, LaMelo Ball when he was here. You get people from America that are like, wow, I'm going to follow this kid's journey. But you got to be realistic with it. They don't want to see, like, what Brisbane Bullets are doing, probably.
Yeah.
They just probably want to see LaMelo Ball. Like,
every score from the Sunday afternoon game. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to push that down their throats of people that don't want to follow the league. Like, it's fine to not follow the league, but if you either have them or you don't.
Yeah.
So you kind of just, like, adapt and be like, hey, we're going to put a page for you. So I think
It's a
honestly.
it's a very good example of why you would split up pages, and that's not the type of account I assume. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to try to populate that every day, like every week.
No.
Like, you don't need to keep that consistent.
Every week, yeah.
Oh,
Not-
every
probably
week,
not
but
every
like
day.
not like a leagues page. is my
No,
point.
no, you don't. It's probably not pressured because you're not going to have those information and ladders and
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's literally dedicated to them, and the content creators that will go to every single game is going to help that tremendously.
What are quick one? What are the content creators? And your main point here that touch on the reason why we brought it up is what?
Hybrid shooting.
Hybrid
the,
shoots.
The versatile nature. If you can do hybrid shooting as in photo and video,
So
you
that's
100%.
who you're targeting, or that's who you've gotten.
Yeah, that's who
Interesting
we
people.
are targeting for this program, I'm calling it. Because like photo and video separately are great, but if in an ideal world to populate content of the Nextars pages and everything we do with it, photo and video, if you can do both, we're 100% going for you. So just a message, if you only do one, maybe think about just trialing. You don't even have to be great at the other. If you can just do it, do some entrance shots of the guys arriving.
Yeah, I think we've actually gone the opposite way in previous episodes about like specialize in one first, but it goes to show that for certain industries like an NBL, like a basketball sporting league, there is serious value in knowing how to do both because cameras these days can do both. So you should do both if you can.
If you can. Again, every situation is different. There's going to be situations where people are looking for video only and you might not be as comfortable because you've spent too much time on photo.
Yeah, and they want the client or the person they're after is highly skilled in video and they don't care about photo. So it's hard.
It's hard, but this program, it's a cool one.
Yeah.
And I think it's heading in a really cool direction. But they were my 3 notes. And I'm just kicking it back now. I'm done.
2 weeks off.
Content's done.
2 weeks off.
Well, it's only going to be 1 week by the time this is out, but that's all right.
But I mean, rest is important. If
Yeah, I
I'm
mean the last the last point related back to the other one because I was briefly talking about being burnt out last week. Not me specifically, but just this industry.
That was a good topic.
So it alludes nicely to. I know I'm taking it for my wedding, but take a few days off.
Yeah,
take some hours off.
More not that everyone's in the point of their life getting married, but find reasons to take time.
Not the lucky one like me.
That's beautiful, Darren. But find reasons to take off because it is important.
Mm.
Are we done? Are we done for another episode?
We're done. That's 6 in a can.
6 in the can. So thank you.
Biggest
Darren,
takeaway from this week?
Oh,
from your personal experiences,
geez,
or what I shared with you?
Yeah, last time you put I did like the
Who's stalling?
What's the thing? Padding.
Padding. Like a
Like
it's like
padding.
stalling.
Yeah. No, I did like a good example of why you separate different social accounts for different audiences. I did like your audience. I think my main takeaway is audiences in general because I think your first point about the very first thing you should do is identify your audience and make content based on that as opposed to the other way around is very intelligent.
It's great.
What was your biggest takeaway?
Great. That's nice
Padding.
one. It's not really like it is a takeaway, but I just like the relationships you can build with the athletes once again. So you
talked about this all last week. We didn't even talk about this this week.
Eddie Betts. I asked if he remembered you, and the fact that
true.
I think that goes a long way. If you're an athlete and you work with people before and you can identify them straight away, like you're like, hey Mike, how are you? You're like, good.
Good, thank you.
So shout out to Eddie Betts for remembering my man Michael.
Yeah. It does relate. I was going to relate it to another LinkedIn post, but you're probably sick of hearing me.
LinkedIn Mike. I wish your name, anyway, began with
Follow me on LinkedIn. Let me know what you think of my content, daily content.
That's all right, but please get us out of here. I've got a wedding to go to.
True, it's not today, but thank you for tuning in. Again, as always, hit us with questions in the comments, over socials, whatever you want. We just want to hear from you because, as we say most weeks, I think the Q&A start to the show, it's the highest energy. It's curious because it's not, well, not that most of it's scripted, but we don't know what you're going to ask us and we love hearing from you because it helps us and it helps you ideally.
That's the best part. We don't know what's coming.
Yep.
You can throw anything at us to set the scene of the show.
Exactly. So thank you, Darren. Good luck for your wedding. You don't need luck, but
Thanks,
I'll see you there.
Thank you.
I won't be filming. You can change your mind if you want, but I'm sure who you've got there will be more than capable.
People always asked if I was going to stare over the shoulder of the photographer and videographer as well.
I do that a bit actually at weddings.
You sure that's right?
Focus on it.
Shutter speed is a bit.
Focus on the day. Anyway, Darren, you focus on that, and we'll touch base next week once you're a married boy with a big ring, and we'll touch base on your videography.
You want me to talk about wedding content next week? Like what content we got from or what I learned from the other side of the camera?
Was it a recap? Was it moments? We'll see how the videographer clips it up, but we'll catch you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.